Looks like it. Alrighty. I'm Skye Fassett. I am a real estate photographer out of the Twin Falls area. I'm also a master photographer, and I have my certification through the PP of A. I started with drones, about 2.5 years ago, just to use it in my real estate photography business. That's what I mostly use it for, is take pictures of houses and property, and that's about it, and land. So, but there are some stuff before you even can fly that you need to know about drone flying and what you registering and all of that. So, first off, all of the drones that you own under 0.55 pounds has to be registered through the FAA. And there is a website, it was on my slideshow for that. And you're gonna have to be honest about your email, your physical address, phone number, all of that information, because that is what they use to track it. Also, let's see here. You have to be older than 13. So if your kids have a drone, the adult has to register that drone. Once it gets registered, they give you a number, and it's just kind of like airplanes. They have tail numbers. You have to mark your drone with that number. And this is even if you do it just for fun. You have to have your drone registered. It's like $5 a drone, and you have to do it every 3 years. It's not bad. So flying recreational, you still have to know all the regulations with the FAA. Ones that you really have to know is you are only allowed to fly up to 400 feet above the ground. And that's for anything. But like these buildings, you can go to the building and then the 400 feet. So you have that clearance. One thing you have to watch out for, though, is other aircraft around you, because if you're flying a drone, you have to give that airplane the right-of-way. So anytime that you're flying close to like a little airport that you still have clearance to fly under, you have to be really cautious of crop dusters, or even the pilots that are out there that just like to fly low, even though they are supposed to be higher. You have to drop your drone. And they will allow you to actually go up if you have to give that right away to go up, but to go over that 400. But as soon as that plane passes, you have to put it back down to under 400, because nobody really wants to have a plane crash and it's on you for flying your drone. If you're only flying recreational, it's only for recreational. You don't sell those pictures, it's just completely for fun and goofing around. Otherwise, you have to get your pilot license. It's called a Part 107, and that's for what the drone pilots use. You also have to redo that every 2 years to keep up with it. Other things that when you're doing it recreational, you have to keep your drone in line of sight. So at all times, you have to have that drone, you have to know where it's at in the sky. And one way that you could do this is even have somebody else that is watching that, and they can tell you, if a plane's coming or whatever, but somebody can tell you. But most of the time I'm flying by myself, so I try to be cautious of, that I know where my drone is. Let's see here. Yep, and registered. Okay. So that's in controlled airspace. Uncontrolled, you just want to stay under that 400 feet. In your drone, your controllers will tell you how many feet you are up and what the distance is away. It gives you a map of where your drone's at, what direction it points at. It's kind of cool. And then you always have to actually carry with you your paperwork too, even if you're recreational. They have a test for you actually to take if you're doing recreational, so you know what the rules and regulations are. And it's called trust. I don't know what that stands for, but hey. Also, like drinking, if even you have a sip of alcohol, you actually can't fly for 8 hours. So I don't really drink, so that I don't really care about, but I know other people, they get hammered the night before and then they're supposed to go fly the next morning, and legally you're not supposed to be doing that. And you just want to fly in a safe manner. So you don't want to fly over people. Stadiums, there's certain areas in maps that will tell you where you're not supposed to fly. If there's something that comes up, there's other regulations that you can look up and see if you can fly in that area. So if a stadium has like a game going on, you have to stay away from that stadium. You cannot fly near or above it. So now into flying under your Part 107. This is for anybody that's flying for anything other than recreation. So if you are using it for your business and you're making money or you're gaining profit off of it, you have to be registered. And that goes even like for anybody, even regular pilots. Yeah, they have their pilot license. They still have to have a 107 as well. And they have, I think, a different process. I'm not sure. So anything that weighs under 0.55 has to be also registered, just like mine. It has the label. You have to carry around your license. You have to carry around, if you got it redone, your certification, which they just let you print off after you finish your test, and also your registration. So any of these paperwork, I have copies of it in my bag, and then these are in my wallet at like pretty much all times. Because I do get asked by other homeowners that are just curious about what I'm doing and tell me I can't fly around their house. They have asked to see my license. So, and I know some people have had drones probably fly around their house and they don't think that the drone's supposed to be there. If you do shoot it out of the air, you are liable. You can get in trouble with the FAA for that. Because any airspace is not controlled by public property, it's the FAA. So like the Tetons, national parks, the wetlands, anything over there, it's pretty much all red, where it's locked. You can't take off. To get your 107, what I did is I researched a few online schools. I went through, what was it? Like ground pilot ground school or something like that. And I did all of their sessions, and it took a few weeks to do it, and then I studied. I took the practice tests, and once I got to where I needed to be on my practice test, then I went in to take my test. The first initial test cost me almost $200 to take, so I did not really want to just waste $200 to retake it. The recertification, it was a lot easier. Just went out, they changed it where you can go online and they have you take this test. You also should be mentally and physically able to always be in control of your drone. So if you're having like migraines and you're not seeing very well or whatever, you're not supposed to fly. So you just want to make sure that you're safe, the people around you are safe, and all of that. And property. Also, so once you get your drone, you have to register it. The next thing to do is to get familiar with it. So mine is a Mavic Pro 2, and it comes with the remote control. And you actually hook up your phone, and it comes with different cords for different phones. Sometimes your phone cases are too thick for it, so it's not gonna fit in here. So you have to take off your phone case, or you can buy one of their smart controllers. Unfortunately, I bought one, My hands are really small. I have like kid hands, and it's way too big for me. So I get to use my phone. But I've heard awesome things about the smart controller. So then this is how small my Mavic Pro 2 like folds up. This is all folded. It has a gimbal cover. It just comes off. And that's going to hold this gimbal, which also holds the camera. So you just want to make sure you're really careful with that. And then it just unfolds. And so then, you know, you have all that. It's fun. I usually have about 3 batteries with me at all times because they only last about 15 minutes. And so you just don't want to be doing a project and have it go down and then you don't have enough power to come back. So I have a safety setting on mine where it warns me, it beeps at me, and then I also have it where if it's really low, it will come back home immediately before it runs out of power. So you just want to be really familiar with it. And then it has the chargers and stuff. I even have a charger for my car, so if I'm going somewhere, I can put it in and charge it while I'm driving, so I have enough battery power for my next job. And there's also, like, you get really nervous when you first fly these, so don't be surprised if your hands shake and you're totally nervous about flying it. The good thing is once you take off, and if you have like almost a panic attack or you just need a time to think, you can actually just let go of the joysticks and it will hover there for you. It will not fly away unless something majorly went wrong. So yeah. Another way you can practice too is that you can do simulators. So there's simulators that you can apps to download and stuff that you can do, or you can use the one that the DJI has. You have to take off the blades to do it because your drone has to be on as well to do it, and everything needs to be hooked up. But it's a good way to just kind of get, you know, the joysticks and know what the buttons are doing. So with mine, I just have it how it came out of the box, because I don't want to memorize a different way of doing it. So on this side is the one that makes my drone go up and down, or it spins around and the direction. This side is the one that actually moves it back and forth and sideways. And then there's record buttons and photography buttons, and this will actually change like the gimbals up and down. And this one is supposed to change like the aperture and speed and stuff. I don't use it, I do it on my phone. And I do a lot of my controls through my phone, and I mostly just use the joysticks. I'm really sorry you can't see this, but if somebody wants to take it, you can. So before you go fly, a good thing to do, and you should do, is like a pre-flight checklist, just to know that you are safe to fly where you're at. Unfortunately, sometimes I don't know where I'm going until that morning, because my agents don't like to give me some of the addresses until almost last minute. So I can't look up that address and see if I need to go through my system to get clearance close to the airport. It's called Lance, and you have to put in all of your information, what you're doing, what height you want to go at, and then online it gets sent to the people that are supposed to approve it, but they actually have up to 90 days to approve your request. And Twin and Burley usually do not respond to those requests. So you can't take off. So I do my airspace and just see where that's at, and see that I'm safe to fly, because these it says 22 miles per hour. I know it can go to about 30 and be okay on just still pictures, not panos, because it gets really wobbly. But if it's like really, really windy, it won't even take off. It'll get like maybe this far and be like, no, it's too much wind. So it just depends on what drone you have. The bigger the drone, usually it can handle more wind because it's heavier. I also have to think about the canyon. Yeah, I have, 15 mile per hour winds, and then the canyon where that wind gets sucked down in turbulence. So I don't want to be flying by a house in the canyon when it's windy, because that can mess it up. And so I really don't want to lose another drone. I have lost one, and most drone pilots do crash their drones. It's just a matter of time. And I tried to be really careful, and I still crashed it. And so another thing when you're doing your pre-flight checklist is sure that your gimbal's clean. If you need any sort of filter, because it's just like your other cameras, you can buy filters for these. Make sure that your batteries are good. So anytime that these batteries poof up, you want to dispose of them properly. You do not want to put them in your trash can at home. So just take it to like Best Buy, and they will dispose of these properly for you. These batteries are about $150 a piece. So it's kind of sad when one goes out, but they do last about 2 years. That's about the time frame. But you do want to make sure that your battery is also secure, because sometimes it clicks, but it actually isn't all the way down there, and I'm not sure why. Another thing to check is to make sure that your SD card's in here. It is a mini SD card. I forget sometimes and look like a complete idiot and do the walk of shame back to my car to get my SD card. And it's, of course, when the little kids are watching me. Go figure. There are sensors on this. So when you're on your phone and it's all connected, it will actually tell you when it needs to be calibrated. It'll say sometimes like the ground ones aren't calibrated, so you have to do that on your computer. Then there's also another calibration that you get to do. You look like you're dancing with your drone, and you look really stupid. Connie got to see me do it. It's fun. But pretty much almost every time I go out to get the, sorry.
Coordinates?
No, not coordinates. Sorry. Like the compass of it, calibrated. You should do it every time, because every time where you're at is different. And sometimes it says it doesn't need it. I most of the time do, but it does have sensors on the bottom. It has it in the front. It has it in the back. It does have it on the sides, but these are only on in certain modes. Most modes, these are not on. So if you're flying this way, this is how I crashed my drone, by the way. So I was flying this way, it didn't catch it, and I hit the canyon wall because of where I was at. And so you just got to be cautious about that sometimes that doesn't work. Then one time, something happened in my settings, and when it was a go home point, it was only like 5 feet away from me. I was already trying to land it, but it took control. And one of the settings, it was off for the front sensor. So it actually almost hit me because it was really close and got out of the way. But stuff like that, it can happen to anybody, just because sometimes you don't see it in those settings. Just like a camera, you forget to change it from manual focus to autofocus, and you're like, oops. So another thing is just make sure of littler airports, anybody that might be up in the air, balloons, kites, telephone poles, everything. You want to make sure that you're safe to take off, okay? So you want to be very well surrounded with your surroundings. All righty. Oh, so I did have a thing, and it's really easier to explain when you see it. It's on here. but it's determining air classes. And it looks like an upside down wedding cake, okay? Bigger airports is gonna be your class B, so these are like really, really ones that get really heavily used a lot. And and it goes up. But where we have to stay is down here still at 400. And then it has like the smaller airports and even smaller, and then to the ones that are not controlled by an air traffic controller. So and to take the test, you have to know this, and you have to read what the air pilots use. Even though we're not gonna fly into their area, we know how we have to use and know their map. And it's weird, to say the least. So, yeah. I have no idea what I'm doing. Surprisingly. But for drones, it's kind of, we don't have to buy their books or their maps. We can actually download some really cool apps to check what our airspace is. I was using AirMap for a while, and the FAA just shut them down for a little while. I'm not sure why, but I can't use that one to do my LANCs to get authorization for the airports. So I use one that's called Sidekick, and if you zoom in closer to like an airport, you can actually tell that it says like 400, sometimes 200, and then 0. Anytime it says 0, pretty much that airport is never going to give you clearance to go into that area, because that's where the runway is. It went forward on me, sorry. An app that I do for weather is UAV Forecast. It's really awesome because it tells you the wind speed, the temperature, which way the wind's going, what kind of weather you're having. And also you can go into another part of it, and it's gonna tell you what the wind speed is at how many, at like 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, 500, and so on. Because the more you go up in the air, the wind speed usually is stronger. So you have to keep that in mind when you're flying. So there are times where I have to call my real estate agents and go, I can't fly because of this. Yes?
What was that app called?
It's UAV Forecast. And I really like it because I can screenshot this and it says not good to fly in red. And I text it to my agent so they know, do not talk me into flying. Because some try to do that, but that's okay. So, dang it. I was gonna go over what the interface looks like with the DJI, what their app looks like when you open it up. Fortunately, it's harder to go through that without the screen, but it's gonna tell you how much it's gonna connected to how many satellites, if it's gonna pick up your drone, your home spot, everything like that. And it also gives you a display of what the drone is actually seeing and that. And then just like your cameras, there's an auto, there's shutter priority, aperture priority, and complete manual. And usually I shoot in manual just because that's how I shoot with my camera. So I just use it as like another tripod. So it's kind of how I think of the drone, even though I'm flying it. It's just another tripod, it's just up in the air. So composition, all of that is the same with that. There are some pretty cool things that you can do when you go into your photo settings that you can do, like the single shot, you can do HDR in it. It can actually do it on its own. It also does bursts, and you can pick from like 3 to 5 bursts you can also have that change into your stops. So if you want a 1-stop difference, 2 stops, 3, it can do like up to 5 stops difference. And then you can get into doing panoramics and other fun things with it. You can also shoot RAW or JPEG with a drone. So if you like to shoot RAW and you have all that information, you can still shoot it. And I know this is not the funnest stuff to learn about at the moment, because you have to know this stuff to fly. Taking off, I try to get I have to. There's a spot that doesn't have a lot of trees. There's an opening that does not have the power lines in it. Not really windy. Also, if there is a bunch of like grass, like on this grass, you can either get legs to put on your drone so it lifts up higher so your blades aren't hitting the grass. That's good. Or you can get one of these. This one came with my drone, and you can just put it out, and if it's not windy, you can just have it there. If it's windy, you're gonna have to stake it down. But I usually try to just take off from somebody's driveway or the road, because I know there's nothing that's gonna hit it. Other things to make sure of is like people and pets are aware that you're going to take off, and they are back far enough where you're not gonna hit them. And again, you are not supposed to fly over people unless they're part of your production. So if they are feel unsafe about it, you have to let them know ahead of time, so you're flying safe and keeping everybody else safe. Pets is a big one. I always have to get homeowners to get their dogs, because they do like to attack drones, or they want to chase it, or they get scared and they can bite you. So you don't want that. And horses, I do fly around horses. I try to gauge that pasture area and of how good the horse is going to take it before I try to get like a closer shot for that piece of property that I'm usually doing. Because they want to show off it's a horse property. Well, I got to gauge that horse. It's fun though. I really like it. You want to make sure that your home button, you know exactly where it is. There's actually 2 of them. There's one on the control. There's also one on your phone too. And pretty much when you're done flying, you can hit that button and it comes back to where you took off. Pretty cool. So it makes it kind of easy. But you need to watch it at all times, because sometimes it loses that home space and goes the wrong direction. So you want to always make sure that you're in control and you can stop it, override that button, and bring it back. And then yes, your pre-flight, you do the calibration for the compass. Yeah. So that was like more of the regulations and stuff, and then we can actually take it out and I can show you the screens and stuff like that. I'm not sure if we're gonna take off today, because it's almost at the point where I'm not supposed to take off because of the winds. And it's not really it's more of the gusts of winds that you can't feel until it gets to you, and it takes it off like this. Yeah. Anybody have questions?
How long did you study before you took the test?
How long did I study? I probably took a month worth of studying just to make sure that I got it, but I did do the practice test. So I just kept taking those practice tests until I got to where I needed to be. And I think you have to have like an 80 or higher to pass it. And when you do your recertification for it, you actually have to get a 100. It will tell you which ones you got wrong, and you just go back and change the answer, and voila. But they pretty much make you look it up so you know where to find the information. And there is like a book that you print off for your study guide like this, and it has all of those maps and everything that they're going to use for your tests. And all of that information is also through the FAA website as well.
When you were talking about the compass setting it up to get ready to fly, was it the coordinates you were referring to?
The what?
The coordinates?
Yeah, the compass, it gets all the coordinates correct. So if it's wrong, your home point will be wrong, and it'll still be programmed to the home point that it had at your last place.
Oh, crap.
So, like, I know these drones have, like, I think a radius where it still works, like, up to, like, 3 to 5 miles, somewhere in there. I've never flown it that far because you're supposed to keep it in line of sight at all times. So it's really easy to lose these drones in the sky. And flying at night, they just changed it where you can fly at night without the permission, but you have to have a light on it. And I have like a little strobe, and we'll see if this works today. I don't use it all the time. This is actually, you can see this up to 3 miles.
So what kind of images do you get when you're flying at dark? Does it take?
I don't really fly at night. I did do last year a cool, I did like a Christmas light video thing for somebody. They do a Christmas lane, and so I had to go, I only could do it a half an hour after sunset. And so, but once it gets like pitch dark, I wasn't supposed to fly at that time, so I didn't. But it was pretty fun because, you know, I got to do something that I normally don't do all the time. So it's a learning curve, but if you already know like your camera settings and stuff, it's pretty easy. And then there's programmable like video the stuff to make it look really cool that's already programmed in it, and you just make a little box of where you want it to focus, and you hit go, and it does it for you. Okay, yeah. So that's it.
Thank you.